contributor James Stewart. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
His new book is called Unscripted, The Epic Battle for a Media Empire and the Redstone Family Legacy. And it is a real-life version of Succession in so many ways.
Well, yeah. I mean, it is. We thought at the beginning it was kind of the Me Too meets the corporate boardroom.
Because it started as a Moonvis book, I think. No?
Well, Moonvis, CBS, corporate, governance sort of thing. And then we realized, oh, it's so much bigger than this. And there's so many unbelievably interesting characters. It really turned much more into this family drama. It is very much like Succession, although I have to say, Logan Roy has nothing compared to Sumner Redstone. The reality is so beyond anything you could dream of.
So it is all very twisted. We were talking in the commercial break. All of the. So if Sumner was alive today and he read this book, what do you think he would say to you?
Well, I think he'd say it's accurate. And, one of the interesting things about Sumner is he was self-aware. I mean, he was always saying, I'm going to live forever. But he confided in one of his many mistresses, if that's what you want to call it.
You think he knew all these mistresses were taking advantage of him, which is basically what you appear to report?
Well, late in life, you see he's deteriorating, and I'm not sure. I think part of the story is the vulnerability, which I think anyone could relate to as an elderly relative. But he was self-aware for a while, and one of the things I found interesting, he said, "Well, I don't want to die because I'm going to go to hell. I'm going to be judged when I meet my maker." And so he knew that there was a lot of bad behavior. What do you make of the relationship ultimately between Sherry, his daughter, and him?
Because there is some sense that I think she still loves him in many ways, and there's that runs deep. But his view of her, at least during some moments that you report in this book, are so tortured and so horrible that it's almost hard to understand what those feelings could be like today.
Well, that relationship is so interesting, and I think, a lot's been written about fathers and sons, but not so much about fathers and daughters, and it's a very complicated relationship here. You see the gender issues, the sexism, his admiration for her at times, but then his competitiveness, his jealousy, his resentment when she actually succeeds or gets some credit for something. I think, anyone, and particularly women who have struggled with, relationships with their parents will find this really interesting and rich. But I can't explain it, I'm not a psychologist.
When you think about what's happened to Paramount and CBS today, which is to say they've been merged back together, that's something that Sumner Redstone did not want to happen, something that Sherry did. And it's clearly something that Les Moonves didn't want to happen, which was his undoing to some degree.
Definitely.
How will that be measured?
Well, I don't think there's really any doubt that Sherry was right about that. I mean, scale, the business is going through upheaval, as everyone who watches your show knows, and scale is important, and they needed scale. They should have merged a lot sooner.
Right.
And the fighting.
You think they should have merged a lot sooner, or you think that they could have sold off one of the businesses 4 or 5 years ago when valuations were at a completely different place?
Well, it's hard to rerun that. They would have been better off merging and selling the whole thing when valuations. Could they have, sold off CBS? Maybe. But I think Sherry was probably right. Merge them and sell them. And by the way, I think most people still think it probably needs to be sold. It doesn't really yet have the mega scale of a Netflix or an Amazon or a Disney Plus. But I do feel Sherry has pretty much been vindicated, although, as we all know, the market has turned viciously against the whole streaming model, and that's what all these companies pin their futures on.
Yeah, and if you look at Washington right now and the regulatory environment for any sort of a merger or a deal,
the obvious candidate would probably be something like Netflix that doesn't have a studio, but trying to combine a broadcast network, a big major Hollywood studio with a giant, tech company like that, I don't see that happening right now.
Update us on Les Moonves today.
Well, Les Moonvis was very popular. He was, named the most powerful man in Hollywood before his downfall. He still has many friends out there. Some of my friends have said, look, I don't really kind of know what happened there, but he really helped me in my career. I would never count him out. I mean, obviously, he's lying very low, but he has the support of his very popular wife, Julie Chen.
Yeah. Is it Moonves Center? Is it still the Moonves Center at USC?
No. He's out. He's out. He was stripped of.
Here's the thing that I think
it's like
a lot of folks really want to know, and it's painted in the picture. It's painted in the book. Do you believe that when Les went after Sherry, or effectively said, I don't want to do this deal, that was his undoing and that she did it.
It was definitely his undoing. And we were really lucky that we got all of these confidential documents, the transcripts, the texts, the emails. I mean, somebody said no CEO is ever going to text again after reading this. But you see it in real time, the agony Moonvis goes through and trying to do. He decides to declare war on the Redstones at the same time knowing he has these dark secrets in his past. He had no option. He couldn't lose face with the board. But there's no question that was frankly, a pretty insane strategy under the circumstances. And it did prove his undoing. But it's not because of what Sherry did. There were all these rumors that Sherry, planted these stories about the women.
That's what I'm asking.
No, there's no truth to that. I tell you, one of the fascinating things is that the board especially always believed the worst about Sherry and the best about Moonvis. And I had so many rumors to track down. I wasted so much time. None of them actually turned out to be true. She did not plant those stories. She heard the rumors. She passed them on to the board. The reaction of the board was disgraceful. The sexism in there, again, the real-time comments, the remarks, they're like, oh, who cares about that? We all did it. It was astonishing to me.
And that's, I think, the idea that you have the texts and the emails and so much of this that goes back.
Yeah, we have all this original material. It's like you can't really, argue with the facts because it's right there in print. Transcripts, emails,
exactly.
Texts.
I thought I knew this story until I started going through your book. And there's so much more there that I wouldn't believe this if I saw it in succession on HBO because it doesn't seem like it's possible. It can't be this bizarre. The truth is stranger than anything anybody's made up.
Yeah, well, my jaw dropped so many times. And look, I've been a reporter a long time, and I've seen a lot. And I kind of think, this is one of the great things about being a reporter. You just think you've kind of seen it all, and then, oh my God, something else surfaces. And it was during the pandemic. Unfortunately, I had a co-author because we'd call each other back and forth and say, can you believe that? We needed somebody to talk to.
Rachel Abrams, we should
mention Rachel.
Both of you.
Yeah, who did a fabulous job.
Definitely deserves a lot of credit for
you guys are amazing.
And,
thank you. I don't think I'll ever write a story like this again. I kind of hope not.
James Stewart, the book is called Unscripted. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.